Can you hear me? All right. Welcome, Julian. Actually looking forward to this. I apologize yesterday. I was still a bit under the weather, but let's get this rolling. Tonight's topic is the proposition that Trump's executive order on healthcare is good for America. And I'll be explaining exactly why that is. So just a little background. On October 12th of 2017, President Trump signed an executive order in regards to healthcare. Now, this executive order doesn't really do all that much, to be honest, but the little bit that it does, I believe, is a no-brainer that it is good for everybody in America. Just even in the executive order, the president begins explaining why such an executive order is really necessary. And it starts at the average exchange premium in the 39 states that are using healthcare.gov in 2017 is more than double the average overall individual market premium recorded in 2013. And then it goes also that largely failed to provide meaningful choice or competition between insurers, resulting in 1/3 of America's counties having only one insurer offering coverage on their applicable government-run exchange in 2017. Now, that's a no-brainer. These are bad. To have no option to go between different insurers, there's no competition, and having premiums double is a no-brainer. And that's why it starts off that something has to be done to change that. So then he goes and it doesn't change law, but it orders the secretaries of Treasury, Labor, and Health and Human Services to propose regulations revising all within the law, and it mentioned that many times, within the law, to change three things. One is the associated health plans, otherwise known as AHPs, the short-term limited duration insurance, otherwise known as STLDIs, and the health reimbursement arrangements known as HRAs. To expand these three things. Now, we're going to get into each one individually more, what each one is, but what it does is it doesn't change any real law from what you can to not. In the expansion, it's expanding on what's already allowed, just expanding on what's allowed to be allowed to more people, to include more people into pools to bring down premiums and to bring more competition to the market. Well, like I said, we're going to go into each one later on. It's not enough time, my first opening 3 minutes, so I'll pass over to Julian, and then we'll go back.
Changes things that are allowed because it actually expands the Affordable Care Act, and it's dependent on the Affordable Care Act, as in the mandate. It's dependent on the individual mandate to be successful in the long term. But let's go ahead and start with some definitions. Actually, I should point out there's actually a problem with this resolution. It should be plural. There's 3 different executive orders concerning healthcare that Trump has issued, and it's likely that there'll be a 4th one any day now. I think this actually talks about 2 different orders. There was one on the 12th, but there was actually one on the 13th as well that dealt with subsidies. But I do understand that we both went into this debate, since the one on the 12th is the most significant one, and that's the one that I'm going to talk about the most. And of course, it's not about it's not about the Affordable Care Act. It's not about the act in general, and I'm sure you agree with me on that. What is a right move? Right is defined as morally good or justifiable, as an adjective by Oxford Dictionary. So a right move would be a policy towards such an end. I believe that for Pro to win, he must prove that the executive order has a greater benefit to Americans, as I will prove that the executive orders are an overall net negative. A greater benefit would be a bipartisan congressional plan that both curbs costs and provides access to high quality insurance, like the Alexander Murray Senate bill. The goal of the ACA that Congress passed into law is to make high quality healthcare affordable for all Americans with low income and pre-existing conditions. These measures are not in line with this goal because they lower quality and decrease access in comparison. To be sure, cutting private sector costs, providing state flexibility, and encouraging free markets may be appropriate factors for individuals to consider in implementing virtually any law, but these policy priorities cannot be implemented in such a way as to render inoperable the goals and priorities integral to the ACA's moral statutory scheme. In fact, doing so only opens the administration to legal issues. It is neither moral or just to abandon the goal of making high-quality care affordable to all Americans without a clear direction. Therefore, Trump's executive orders on health is a wrong turn for America because it doesn't fix the law shortcomings or move us closer to a workable alternative direction. Rather, it destabilizes the marketplace and places higher costs or reduced coverage on Americans who can least afford it. Insurance companies like Molina are already raising premiums and will continue to profit while leaving consumers and families with no options at all. I ask you vote con against the resolution to affirm the need for a proper bipartisan compromise as Republican Senator Lamar Alexander and Democratic Senator.
I agree with you 1,000,000% that this isn't the end all. This is not the greatest plan in the world. I would rather a full repeal. I think makes more sense. But within the confines of the ACA, keeping it alive, 100%. It is on me. The onus is on me to show that this is good for the people of America. Now, we're all in agreement that bringing down the cost of premiums without affecting the actual care that you get is good for everybody in America. We agree to that. Everybody agrees to that, and that's all I have to show. I have to show that the cost will be brought down without affecting the actual care that each person receives. So now the three things that are mentioned in the executive order, I think each one is very logical in how it will bring down costs. So the first one of the AHPs, the Associated Health Plans, which is something that where you partake in a pool. It already exists for large corporations. It allows you to go outside state lines where normally you're confined within a state and you're bound by their law. Now it takes you out of that and into federal law. So it allows the mom and pops and people in the small businesses or even people to peer together into a pool. And when you have a larger pool, premiums go down. It brings down the cost. Now that's just logical. When you have pools, it brings down cost. There's a reason why people want to be in pools. People who are paying for their premium want to be in the pool. So that is good for the American people. It's bringing down the cost. The second thing, the short-term limited duration insurance, also, it's not bound by the ACA regulations. So I do not have to have included in my insurance plan things that I don't want. It's not going to be the most comprehensive. I don't have to. I am willingly choosing that plan because I want to. Obviously, it's better for me. I wouldn't choose that plan if it's worse for me. I think we can all, that's just logical. So people want it. Obviously, it's better for people and it's cheaper. The reason why they want it is because it's cheaper due to the fact that they are not obligated to the confines of ACA and their regulations. And the third thing, the health reimbursement arrangements also makes it easier for people to pay for their premiums because now it can be taxed. It makes it much easier for people to pay. So those three things, it's the simple logic tells you that each one is better for the American people. It's bringing down, it's creating competition. It's for people out in counties that normally would only have one option for healthcare. Now it's bringing competition. Competition always brings down prices. That's how things work. So all these three things are bringing down prices, helping the American people. So you really have to demonstrate now why those three things are not inherently good for the people.
This order does do three things. It expands access to associated healthcare plans for small businesses, expands the length of short-term benefits, and expands reimbursement accounts for small businesses. And allows purchases across state lines as well. I don't think you mentioned that. So let's go ahead and get the association plans. Will only work to lower cost if younger, healthier people sign up as opposed to older, more sick-prone individuals, as illustrated by 6 physician groups, including the American Academy of Family Physicians. They generally offer fewer benefits when compared to other options. The ACA only covers small business employees below 400% of the poverty line. This means small business employees with chronic health conditions are left in jeopardy and will pay higher premiums even at modest incomes of about $49,000. 2. Short-term plans are not great insurance. According to the nonpartisan Kaiser Institute, there's no requirements for these plans deductible, and these plans, as you stated, and the deductibles are as high as $10,000, and many do not cover prescriptions. This would be the largest impact on the short-term market because healthy people would purchase them at lower cost, thus raising premiums are bankrupting the ACA plans used by the sick. And it also, as I illustrated, raises premiums for everyone to account for the loss. 3, as reported in The Economist, health reimbursement accounts, or HRAs, are not likely to stabilize the market because those employers are not likely to invest in something that's uncertain. The only way to fix this larger problem is to increase the subsidies. And of course, that's not likely to happen because the executive order on the 13th cuts the subsidies. And state lines will only further burden riskier patients and decrease competition by further moving the risk pool to healthier individuals. Companies will only charge more or go out of business. This order asks Americans to pay higher costs or reduce their coverage. It means that the Americans who need the coverage the most will have the least access and only benefits those who need it the most. So cancer patients will pay more out of pocket for their treatment or go without it, and people will go without medications that they need as well. But this is the real kicker, as I already stated. These are within the ACA, and they depend on the language of the mandate. They depend on this mandate that you have to have insurance, that you're saying the main value of this is just get rid of it. They depend on that. They expand that. So for this to be successful, that has to be implemented, and the subsidies have to be implemented. So it's not, it contradicts itself. And you also mentioned a tax deduction. Both the Kaiser Institute estimates that this will cost, because as a tax reduction, that because of this increase of 25%, the average family $55,000, and the Congressional Budget Office says $90 million, 190.
All right, so there are a couple things that you mentioned there. I hope to get to all of them. First, you mentioned that due to bringing the AHPs and the expanding the pools to smaller businesses as well, that it's going to be beneficial for healthier people and be less beneficial for those that are already existing conditions. That is 100% accurate. You have that same issue with big corporations that can cross state lines today. So that's already in the ACA, where it can be done with big corporations. So you have no problem with it being with big corporations, but you have a problem with it being with small corporations. I find that problematic. 2, correct. And here's a misunderstanding that people have to understand, that health insurance, that's how it works. It's like car insurance. If somebody gets into accidents, their premiums are higher. It sucks, and and I feel bad for them, and I will give charity to them. But fact of the matter is, if you are healthier, you pay a lower premium than somebody who is sick. It doesn't work that everybody, let's take everybody in America, let's take the median, average it out, and everybody pay that much. That's not how it works. And if you're going to come and say it's a right to healthcare, right to cheap premiums, I mean, that's a right. When did that become a right? Healthcare didn't even exist really into the mid 1900s. At what point did it become a right? At what point in time did I have to start paying for somebody else's? Now, I'm not saying this to sound crass and sound like, my language like an asshole, but the fact of the matter is 100%. Somebody who's healthy is going to be paying less of a premium than somebody who's sick, that has pre-existing. And there are subsidies and programs for people that do have pre-existing. But to say that it's not beneficial for America, because there are some Americans that have pre-existing conditions that their premiums will go up, I find that faulty. That if that means, if anything that's said in America, if I take away slavery in America, but somebody's losing out because he had slaves, that not beneficial for America? And obviously that example is not perfect, but I think that in order for the proposition to be correct, it doesn't have to be across the board to every single American, but overall to the American people, it will 100% be better. Will bring down premiums. I completely forgot what the other points that you mentioned. If you mention them again quickly, and I'll get back to them my next time around.
Okay, I think I got cut off when I was saying the Congressional Budget Office says that as a tax write-off, this will cost $190 million over 10 years because it costs 25% more. But let me go ahead and move into let me go ahead and directly contradict your past speech. This, as I said, that this would affect individuals at 400% of the poverty line. So that's about $49,000 a year. So it's actually a modest income. And So it would destabilize the market for that reason. But and as I stated, Molina, they've actually already increased the premiums for everyone. So there already is a higher premium, and it's the thing is you're paired against each other, so you're bankrupting the ACA plans. But I think you talked about a risk pool, and I want to go ahead and let's go ahead and move into the risk pool. The thing is that you can't argue a risk pool without, as I said, the thing with the risk pool, the thing is that you're arguing for you don't realize it, I know this, but you're actually arguing for the mandate, because for this to be successful, the risk pool and the mandate that everyone has to have insurance, this is actually an answer to that continues that. So it doesn't solve that problem. So you're not solving that problem by talking about a risk pool, and you're actually just moving toward larger companies. So let me go ahead and throw in a couple more, a couple more direct rebuttals. You're actually using some straw man arguments, and I mean, I know that these are important values to you, that not everyone has, that it's not an inherent right to healthcare, and that people don't have a right to, and that the ACA expands corporations. I didn't say I supported the ACA. I said we're not debating the ACA. So you're using straw man arguments. And I'd already kind of gotten into how this would cost more because of how it pairs the healthy against the sick, and you didn't really answer that. And of course, as I'm illustrating, you kind of got into the idea of the risk pool. That the risk pools is the thing. The thing is that for the risk pool argument to be successful, that means that you have to continue the individual mandate, that everyone has to have insurance. And it's also dependent on people with pre-existing conditions. As you're saying that they shouldn't have insurance, it's dependent on them having insurance to be successful, because why wouldn't they just not buy insurance? I mean, these companies are not anxious to insure these people. I'm out of time.
All right, so I believe this is going to be a very simple rebuttal to I believe all the points that you mentioned. I know you're bringing up reports and that are done that are going to show what is going to happen if this gets implemented. What's going to happen if we sell across state lines? What's going to happen if we expand the use of HRAs? The best way to know what's going to happen, let's go back to before the ACA. Let's look at how things were before Obamacare happened, and that's why when I started off, President Trump put this into the executive order to explain the reason why he's doing this. He didn't just wake up one morning like, hey, Obama, just mess around with it because I don't like him. It starts with the that are using healthcare.gov in 2017, their premium is more than double the average market premium than it was in 2013. The fact of the matter is the premiums are higher today than they were before. So if we start, and the reason for that, there are a number of reasons, but the main reason for that is the inability to sell across state lines, and also the minimizing the pool. These are all contribute to why premiums are so high. So to throw out there that if this is to be implemented, that it's going to blow everything out of the water and it's going to be mayhem, that's obviously incorrect, because prior to the Obamacare, it wasn't mayhem. It wasn't adding the hundreds of millions of dollars to the deficit. These things weren't happening. So these are very logical steps to take. We're increasing the options and the opportunities that people have in the marketplace. When you bring competition to the marketplace, it brings down prices. That's just that's just factual. It's the way it works in everything, and it's very understandable. And another thing, the short-term limited duration insurance that you mentioned, that people aren't going to be getting the best coverage. Okay, nobody's forcing me to take it. I'm willingly taking it. Obviously, it makes sense for me to take it, right? So can't knock it saying that it's not good if obviously it is, because the American people want that. If the American people didn't want it, then the law wouldn't be changed, and we wouldn't have to have it. It was allowed up to 90 days. Now it's allowed up to a year. People obviously want that, and that's why it's good for the American people.
I'm not arguing what ifs. I'm telling you that a risk pool, the idea that you can lower a risk pool by, say, eliminating or making it possible to purchase across state lines, that directly that is dependent upon the greater problems with the ACA, that you have to have insurance. So yes, someone is forcing you. They're telling you have to have insurance. That's the problem, right? That you have illustrated. Someone is telling you that you have to have insurance. You said that in your first speech, and that it'd be better to eliminate that. You said that yourself. This upholds that, and this is also dependent on the people who have these conditions still for the insurance companies to be required to accept them, which the insurance companies, they just want to make money. They're going to do whatever it is to make money. I doubt you would disagree with that. The thing is, so let's go back to the premiums, because you keep saying the premiums have doubled, and I keep telling you that the premiums are going to go up. The thing is, because on the 13th you eliminate the subsidies. So these subsidies, they go directly to compensate insurance companies for the low-income customers who receive Obamacare. So those low-income customers will continue to would have these lower prices, because it's required. So insurance companies have started shifting these costs already onto largely middle-class people. So they're just people who are average middle-class people, and they're paying a higher premium as a result of this already. So you're not bringing premiums down. And as I already said, the number here is 400% of the federal poverty line, which is about $49,000 for an individual. I mean, you're talking about how things were before in the status quo, but I don't really have a number to compare. I don't have a number of what the cost of this is now as compared to then, and I'm just trying to figure out the solution looking forward. So I can't say I have nothing to go on there that it was better. It really is mayhem, because the goal here is to eliminate competition. It doesn't decrease competition. It eliminates competition, because these companies are going to drop out of the marketplace eventually, or the people are going to have to pay more for their insurance. So no, it doesn't add competition at all. And I mean, it's not really about it's not so much about it. I mean, what Americans want is quality insurance, and this isn't quality insurance, because they would receive less benefits under the plans implemented on the 12th. Under those three types of plans, they would receive less benefits. So I don't think it's what Americans want, as you illustrated either. And I'm out of time, so I'm just going to let it run out.
All right. Like closing 3 minutes. One, it does not decrease any benefits unless the person who's choosing the plan chooses to have a plan with less benefits. It doesn't take anybody's plan that they have and just knock off benefits off the plan. This executive order does not do that. Next, it has nothing to do with people who are at, above, or below the poverty line. Nothing to do with where you're holding financially, and it has all to do how healthy you are and whether you have pre-existing conditions. It has nothing to do whether you're a healthy poor person or a healthy a wealthy person. What the change is going to do is the exact same, whether you're or vice versa. So that I'm not sure where you're bringing that in. Now, if you keep on bringing up the executive order on the 13th of the subsidies, well, the subsidies also should be repealed, because that was already ruled unconstitutional by U.S. Supreme by the U.S. court. It was already ruled unconstitutional. So, but let's leave off the table, because for this debate we've been talking about the executive order of the 12th. Now, I want to close by saying that if you think about it, it's really simple. This executive order does 3 things. One, it allows people to enter a pool. Now, the way risk assessment works is if you walk over to a regular individual on the street, you wouldn't really give them health insurance. You might make $50, $100, $500 a month, but if they get sick once, they'll wipe your account out. The way it works is the bigger pool you have of healthy, obviously depending on how healthy they are, brings the premiums down. So that's what I'm people will enable the providers. It allows people in counties to have an option of choosing different providers. More than one provider, there's competition. Competition brings prices down. The second thing, the short-term limited duration insurance, also obviously people willingly take that insurance over the mandated ACA, which with all the regulations, they're not getting thrown out of the insurance they have now. They are willingly taking that with not comprehensive, but because it's much cheaper. People want to do that. And third, the health reimbursement arrangements allows and affords people to have more affordable. So these are things, all three of them are good. I really don't understand how you're making case how either one is bad for the American people, besides you saying that I think it might up premiums, which is totally illogical. And if you look at history, it shows that that not to be the case. So that's why I make the case that to support the proposition that the Trump executive order on healthcare has been and will be good for the American people.
I think this is a pretty vote for Khan. As I've illustrated, ending the subsidies will in exchange for a tax write-off, as you have called for in your speech, will increase costs by $190 million. As the Congressional Budget Office study said this past January. You have not refuted that. I'm not saying, and to go ahead, you brought some new arguments in there. I'm not saying that people don't willingly buy these plans. I'm saying they have to buy the plan. I'm saying that if they choose to buy one of these three plans, that will bankrupt the market for people who are on the ACA plans, who are sick and wouldn't want to be on a plan with less benefits. Which I went into the idea of risk assessment. I keep bringing up how for these three plans on the 12th to be successful, that they continue the idea that someone has to have insurance that you said we should just get rid of, and that they also are dependent on the idea that people who, as you don't like this idea that people who are riskier should pay more. So it's all, this is all dependent on that idea, and by I mean but I only have a minute left. So let's talk about the solution here, because you haven't given a solution. The solution is the Senate bill, which is nonpartisan, the Alexander Murray bill, and it actually gets rid. This actually gets rid of it gets rid of the individual mandate, and it actually increases these same plans if people want them, so they would have that choice, and it gives states more power and it gives individuals more power and increases the market. Unfortunately, the administration doesn't want to do this. They want to play partisan politics, and it has to be a one-way street, as opposed to this bipartisan bill that's just fixes what's wrong, and is proven to lower premiums because it's based on the Congressional Budget Office report. It's not about politics, because they know that it would cost $190 million to go through with this executive order. So I think my case has been a lot more clear on why this is bad for Americans. It's how it's a wrong turn for America, how it's not moral, it's not just to disrupt the market, especially when you have, for the riskiest Americans who rely on this for care, especially. So this means that cancer patients can't get their treatment. It means that people can't get life-saving medications. So it does have a disastrous impact. You're talking about at least 20 million people here. And I'm out of time. I'm going to go ahead and post my references.
All right. So just here, one, well, I don't have to give a solution. All I have to prove is that this resolution holds true, and I believe I've done that. Two, you keep on mentioning how the deficit that it's going to add from the HRAs. You got to go look back at history. That's the biggest indicator, not a study show. Another thing is, you said you explained the moral obligation for us to keep it the way it is. I don't recall you explaining why I have a moral obligation as a healthy person to subsidize, help join a pool with somebody who has pre-existing conditions to lower their premiums. I don't recall you doing that. If you did, I apologize. And then